And we are live. Musty Wargamers, Season 6, Episode 11. Howdy ho, everybody.
Hi. How's it going?
Howdy.
Welcome to the Thunderdome.
Another Thursday.
Looks like we got Brad in the house. Lord Draconum. Hello, Brad.
Yeah.
All right.
Hey, Brad.
So how's everybody doing tonight?
I'm doing good. Running a little. It's a bit of a short week. I'm actually amazed that tomorrow is Friday, just because of the holiday weekend, right? And so, yeah, no, I'm not going to complain about it, but I'm just excited. Looks like we got Stryker in the house as well. Hello, Mel. And we also got Chris, Walkabout Games, in the house. We got 3 folks in the house already. Nice.
Well,
Chris.
it helps if you click on the comment
Yeah.
section so you see the comments.
What do you mean?
I was on the private chat
yeah.
section. I was like, why
Yeah.
am I not seeing these
Oh,
comments?
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Well-
forgot to do that too. I was like, what is happening?
Yeah, so weekend came quick for me, and or Friday is coming quick for me tomorrow, and I can't say that I'm disappointed, but at the same time, just like one of those weeks where you kind of had like a really fast car blows by you, and you're still turning, like, you know, you're still standing still, like wondering where you are. That's kind of
Yeah.
what this week has been like for me. Oh, and looks like we got Todd in the house as well.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Todd.
All right.
Yeah.
The robe.
Battletech, Todd says.
Battletech. All right. Look at that.
Nice.
Uh-oh. I don't have a drink poured yet.
Yeah. How about you guys? How has your guys' week been?
It went fast. It's like, this is Thursday already. It was so bad that this morning I realized I'd never even put together my Battletech video for that's supposed to come out today until this morning. I was like, today's Thursday. Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Well, I'm all discombobulated.
Yeah, it was a fast week. I don't know why. I mean, it wasn't like it was a holiday Monday or anything for me, but yeah, it's,
Yeah.
of course, spring's kind of coming now, so my work gets pretty busy too. But yeah, all of a sudden I can't believe tomorrow's Friday too. What the heck? That's good. That's good.
Yeah, no, I can't complain, right? You can't complain. Although it's just a matter of you feel like it's been so busy sometimes, and you're just like, oh my gosh, like there's only one more day left.
Yeah, did I get everything done? Did I get anything
Yeah.
done? It felt like I was
Exactly.
busy, but geez. Yeah.
Do you guys
Yeah.
want to go? We do have topics tonight, I know, but do you guys want to go around the clock and talk about what we've been up to hobby wise, and gaming, hobbying, anything related, or
Yeah, we can.
how about you, Rusty? Do you want to go first?
Sure. Let's see. This week was. I put that. What day did I put that video out for Daredevil?
I know that I probably got to a little late because I commented on it, but I think I commented it a day or two after you put it up. And so was it like Tuesday or something you put it up, or?
Yeah, I haven't even had time to watch it yet.
Yeah, it might have
Probably
been Tuesday.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, when the heck did I put that up? Because I don't know did I show it? Was it complete in the last show? Or
No,
was
I don't. You were close, but you were
I
still
was
doing it.
painting it.
Yeah.
No, so
Yeah,
I haven't
you
even.
were still painting it during the show. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So
Yep.
it's right there. So
Oh,
I
nice.
suppose I can reach it.
It looks like regular size when you get that far away.
Yeah.
28 mil. There it is.
Yeah, put my ears back in.
Yeah, that's squeak.
All right, so I got this guy done.
Nice.
He's all ready. Now, just tonight, my wife was watching her Hallmark channel tonight, so I watched an episode of Daredevil.
Nice. It got you in the mood, right?
Yeah.
It's a
So
good
I'm a huge Daredevil fan, so it's like it's reasonable. If I didn't do off a Wolverine, it would have been Daredevil. So
Mhm.
Stan's reading.
Yeah,
Great.
cool.
Where am I put this guy? In there for the moment. Okay, then I've been printing off some stuff. I printed off, is with the help of Dan, I printed off
Yeah.
these two guys.
Yeah.
And they turned out great.
Yeah,
Mhm.
there's like a couple KV1s. We got the KV2 and the KV1.
KV1. Yeah.
Early version of the KV1.
Yeah.
This one is more hollow than this one. So this is hollow, but I even hollowed it out more with this one. So
Oh,
pretty
okay.
light. This one's about twice as heavy as this one. So,
Yeah.
Oh,
I like
okay.
I like it when I mean, it's just a matter of resources, as far as like you can
Yeah.
make more tanks, make them hollow. But I personally like the heft when they're a little bit more solid.
yeah.
I like that.
So when I printed off the turret, this one, there's zero infill in it. So
Mhm.
Oh,
that's a solid turret. So that gives some
Yeah.
heft to it
Sure.
comparatively. So,
compared to the body.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But-
Yeah, that's cool.
but the cool thing is, if I want to, I can swap them out for, if I want to go on one hull or the other. But this one with the KV2, since it was more hollow, there's more errors in it. 'Cause it was
Okay.
light.
Oh, right. Okay,
Yeah.
interesting.
So you get a few more printer errors with the whole thing. But
Okay.
it is what it is. And for the cost of less than probably $3.50, I printed out 2 tanks. So,
Yeah,
Nice.
that's affordable.
Looks like we got
Tim.
Tim in the house. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Tim.
Hello,
oh
Tim.
yeah. And then all the other guys I've been working on. These are all the 3D printed mechs that I've done.
Cool.
And I got them all in bases now. So, and I still have some behind me that need to be based, but I ran out of time and ambition last night. So. And it's like I primed them today, and it's like standing upwind because like 15 feet away as you spray, because
Yeah.
the wind was just, if you got too close, it's like one of my hands is swirling around. It's like one of my hands was black by the time I got. It's like, well, okay. It's like I still got some paint on my one finger. Like these fingers, they're still kind of got some in the cracks and crevices. And let's see what else. I've been painting. I got these guys I'll probably work on tonight. I got some more BattleTech stuff.
Nice.
Some vehicles. These are going to be Lyrian guards. I've been working on the white. So I'm not sure if I'm going to put another coat of green on these guys, a little lighter, so I can put a wash on them and then start working on the other stuff.
Okay. Are you going to put decals on them? Do you have decals, or what are you going to do there?
I do have some. I have to go through my
Stash.
because I got a whole stash of decals here that I got to
Yeah,
go
you
through.
do. Yeah. Okay.
See what's in my stash.
Nice.
It's a little bit of everything. It's like when you get those Warlord games ones, you get a little assembly of stuff that you can put together.
Yeah, you get way more than you need. And
Yeah.
even like the American half track from the Warlord games comes with Soviet mark decals for it because it could be a Lend-Lease.
Oh,
So-
that's right.
So you might have those, and they'd be nice scale.
Yeah, I do. Oh, speaking of which, this one.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I have that same kit, and it came with the I'm 90% sure it had Soviet decals too.
This one it looks like French, but I'll have to look at it.
Okay.
So, and I think that's everything that's been worked on. I do need to get over. Eventually, I have to find my way over to the game shop so I can pick up some paint, and so I can start finishing this other project. These these guys for the Oryx. So I need to get some. I ran out of bone color, but Tonight
Okay.
we got some Shackleton.
Cool.
So
That
that would be
one's been on the show.
yes.
It's a repeater.
Yeah. Eventually, if you have enough shows, you do repeat stuff.
You get through your. Oh, absolutely, I do too.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Dan, how about you?
I did get a few things done actually. First, this is just the command stand, but I finished
Nice.
up my. These are Perry's Continentals. They were the ones that I it was a refurbishment of some that I'd gotten from a YouTube channel. Added the flag, and I make the movement trays out of wood stock that I get from Hobby Lobby. And then I magnetize them too, so I can move them around. So anyway, I put them. I do stands of 8 because it can be used for works for sharp practice. It would work for muskets and tomahawks. Even would be fine. And then also land of the free, which is what it largely was my main overall goal.
Was that the small tray or unit?
With 3 of these together, it's what we were calling a medium unit.
Okay, so
So it'd be 24 guys.
Yeah, a small one would be the 8.
Yeah, and then I got these. These are probably can't see very good. These are Wargames Factory. My first unit of British line infantry, and the one on the end you can see that I've just started doing some blocking in some base colors to do of my test miniature to see what I get my plan for how to attack that. But pretty happy with how that's coming along. And then one other thing kind of working on the side is I've got these here we go, these resin buildings that I've got these bases cut, and then it comes in two separate pieces here. So I've got them pinned. I haven't glued it yet because I'm also got the bottom drilled out because I'm going to pin it to the base too. And then on this side, I'm going to actually add kind of a ruined second floor here with some boards, and I might even magnetize it so I can either use it or not, and then help hold it in place a little better too. So just kind of the early stages of that. I've got 2 of these. They're not exactly the same, I guess. But anyway, they're from that same series, but they're nice detail resin. I really like. I think they're going to paint up really nice. They're brick, which will be kind of the Stalingrad look I'm going for. So that has kind of been what I got done.
That's
awesome.
the manufacturer of those guys. Of those,
I got them from Frontline Games in Texas.
Okay.
And it's the only place I think they either do it in-house or they're the only real distributor for those buildings, because I have not seen them anywhere else. They come in as kind of a clear plastic bag with just a cardboard topper, and I can't remember what it says on it, but it's some minor company. I just stumbled across them 4 or 5 years ago on the internet when I was doing some looking, and I just love the look of them. And there's tons of different ones, different wall sections, and they're all interchangeable, and they're fairly affordable too. So kind of a kit that I can customize to make it how I want it to be. So that's what I kind of gotten for my birthday last year. Kind of got a big order from them, and now I'm finally, since I got the army done, I've been getting kind of started on the table part of it. So, but yeah, I'm pretty excited to be working on some terrain again too, which I do enjoy.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
Yeah,
That's cool.
Thanks. That's me.
You got a lot going on, actually. Both of you, actually. I probably have more going on. Well, lately I've had more going on gaming, which is weird, for me in my hobby. But because of the holiday weekend, I didn't do any gaming. And so, or even much last week. But I did, after our last show, I did have a Warhammer Fantasy game. And and I think I might have told you guys that it was coming up, that I was going to have it, that it was going to be with Wood Elves, against Wood Elves. And yeah, that was good. It was an interesting game. It was like we played 1,500 points, and so that was nice, and like a little bit bigger, about 500 points bigger than what I've been playing more regularly. And Beastmen did come out on top. I've actually, I don't think it's because like I'm the most amazing general or that my army is extremely overpowered, but I've been kind of lucky. Like I'm on a fairly long winning streak with my Beastmen now. Like I don't normally talk about it, but now that I'm actually on this long, I probably will mention it. I mean, I probably won the last 5 games that I played. And for whatever reason, and it's not highly competitive. Like neither myself or my opponents are highly competitive, but we do like basically we play to have fun, but then at the same time we do try, right? Like
try to
we
win.
Try.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so the games have been good. I probably due for a loss, very soon. In any case, that was interesting, and it was my opponent that I was playing that game hadn't played in quite a while too. In all fairness to him, he wasn't one of my more regular opponents for Warhammer Fantasy, and he was really just figuring out his army. And I went we played the way that you can actually you influence the terrain level on the table by you each place one until one of you decides that you don't want to place one anymore, and then the other one gets to place one more. And I went really low because of my Beastmen. I didn't want a ton of forest like with the Wood Elves and stuff, and so I went fairly low. And I think that he felt that was a bit of a disadvantage in that situation, but at the same time it was good. And the Wood Elves are still really tough. They have a lot of shenanigans and to deal with, and so that was still interesting. So like I am and so like not as much gaming compared to usual recently, but still more gaming than painting. I did not even come close. I should not have set myself a goal to go to paint 2 times till the next show, because with the holiday weekend in there, and then having said that, and then the weather getting a little nicer here and me going out on my motorcycle, I actually didn't get any painting done since the last show. And so now I still am working on these guys, but I'm actually really happy with the way they've come along, because now they like the actual skin it's probably hard to see the glazing and the highlights, but I do actually have some nice highlights in the brown there. I am going to put a wash over it because I did some glazes and highlights, but I'm going to put a wash over it. More of like a glaze wash, like the diluted Army Painter ink is what I like to use. And then I'm going to start actually painting some of the finishing some of the details, and now highlighting some of the other colors on it. And I'm getting close to just having to put the green on the bottom and really getting close to being towards the end for them, which is good.
Nice.
I'm really, really happy with getting them done. I love these models. And so that's kind of me. And I know we got some cool topics tonight. For me, for my Musty drink tonight, I've got a Sapporo. Big can of Sapporo.
Yeah, that is a big. Either you have tiny hands or that's a big can.
Yeah, it's a big can. Well, let's do this. Here's
need something for scale.
Here's kind of like a Space Marine.
Holy moly!
so
like
it's the big can. Yeah. It's these are the tall cans. It's the 500 ml. So,
okay.
Doing the tall can tonight. Going to catch up on some BattleTech comments here with the beer.
Yeah, you're ready.
And I suppose before we go into our discussions, we should probably get caught up on some of the comments, because we've got lots of folks in the house tonight. Well, I think I already put this one up where Todd says, "Can I be the first to say I've been painting and priming BattleTech minis the past couple of weeks?" And Brad says, "I am working on basing more 15 mils." Chris says, "You blink, the week is over." When I was talking about how fast the week has went. Mel says the Earth is sped up because of polar shift and flat earthers. That could very well be it.
Oh, was that Mel?
Tuesday? So I was correct.
Right.
So it was Tuesday was your video, Rusty. I think that's what Brad's referring to.
Okay. Yeah, time flies when you're having fun. You just forget what's going on.
That's one way it flies. Hello everyone, those KVs look nice. and Yay Printing at Rusty's Prints by Chris. I have so many of those waiting minis, they can be a pain to build. And those look great, Dan, says Tim.
Thanks.
So, just looking here to get it right, because I know you guys, or Rusty, I think you put forward the suggestions for today, and I put it in our posting here. And it's basically, we have two. Do you want to just go in order from the website today, Rusty?
That's fine.
A favorite painting technique that seems to work well is the first topic of the night. Who wants to take a first shot at it?
Well, Dan, you
that
want to expand our screen there?
It
sorry.
implies that I have technique.
I left myself on there.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I thought about that a little bit, and I'm not, I don't know. I mean, I'm not a very technical painter, for one thing, but the only things that popped to mind were, because basically it seemed like the only really transformation that I've gone through with my painting is I used to, I didn't use washes. I just literally did layers, and then I did black lining, the old black lining. I don't know if you guys did that. I mean, that's what they, like, even in the books that you would get, that's back in the day, which essentially it did kind of what a heavy wash can do. But
it creates a different look, though, than today.
It does. And that kind of goes with maybe a little bit of your comic book look you go with on your Marvel.
And the Old Hammer stuff. If I go back and I try to paint Old Hammer, I will try to, if I don't do black lining, I sometimes will like to use like a darker color, like a very, very dark color of the base paint that it's on. So like, like a really dark crimson, burnt red, on a bright red, like as to still make it pop in the same way.
Yep.
But it almost nothing is the same as black, doing it with black though.
No, you're right. That's true. And I still do some of it when I need some extra shadow, but I used to, basically blackline everything. And I still like that look, but I remember the very first time that I went with washes, and I had it all neatly all the colors blocked in, and I thought, oh gosh, now I'm going to ruin it, and you just slop that on there. And it was amazing. And then the only thing I've fine-tuned that a little bit is a lot of times I'll use different colors for the, washes for the different base colors. If you want to get more of a yellowy look, or you can even use, red, like a red wash on top of a blue, even different things like that. But otherwise, yeah, the other thing I could really think of was something that really works well for me when I paint my Bretonians, to get the heraldry and to get it balanced, and then where you got to repeat it multiple times. I found what works well for me is I prime in white, and then I literally use just a cheap mechanical pencil with the small lead, and then I sketch on whatever I'm trying to draw, even if it's just like the stripes or or if it's fleur-de-lis, not the teeny tiny ones, I'll freehand those, but anything bigger that I need to make sure it's kind of balanced and that it matches on the front of the horse and the rear quarter of the horse and both sides. I found that's really the only way. I mean, because I've watched videos where these individuals would go in and they've got it all nice. They've even done some highlighting and shading, and then they'll go in and just start painting on, like a leopard head or something. And I'm like, wow, that would just scare me to death. I have it drawn on there before I get going, and then just highlight from there.
Yeah, they're just freehanding it.
Yeah, just freehand, because then I feel like, because when I first was doing my Bretonians, I was trying to do that. And I get, oh, well, this fleur-de-lis is just right. It's perfect. And, and then I get on, then I'm trying to do it on the front of the horse, especially on the 5th edition knights from Warhammer Fantasy that the Perrys did. They've got a lot of rolls and folds in the coat on the horses, the caparison or caparison. I don't know how you say that, but yeah. So, but that's hard to you get into the folds, and all of a sudden you're kind of way off of whack. Carapace, yeah. There you go. But anyway, so I found that way I can keep sketching and I can and I'll erase and draw some more until I get it where it really, and that's really a technique that, and you could, obviously with banners, I do that too, but I think that's really the only thing I think I do that's anything that would be like a tip I would give to somebody that's like doing those kinds of things. Otherwise, it's basically for me, I base coat, wash, but don't necessarily wash everything, and I don't necessarily wash everything in one color. Usually I don't. And then I go back in with the base color again. And then if I can find a color that is a natural highlight, I will do that. At least one more highlight, sometimes two. Or I'll go ahead and mix, which, I'll mix, I use that same base color and then mix in usually like some tan or some gray to lighten it as opposed to white. And then, and then add a little bit more of that same lighter color to get the final highlight. And that way you can kind of control too how bright it is or how warm or cold it is, but whether you use like a gray to mix in or a tan.
And you're saying you're not a technical painter.
Yeah, well, I mean, that stuff to me, that stuff's pretty straightforward. I don't get really sophisticated with glazes.
I can make a little hotter and a little colder with the temperature and all of this and that. But for me, all I do is slap the paint on.
Well, I wasn't. Yeah, I know what you mean. I guess it's all such baby steps. You don't maybe really notice it, but because I used to, when I would mix my paints, it was literally just add white, which is fine. And sometimes I still do add literally pure white, depending on what you're trying to do. But you can't. I guess it's one of those things to not be afraid to try some things, and you can't wreck it. I mean, especially when you're mixing a few drops of these two kinds of paints, and then you can put it on or not put it on. But it's amazing what you can come up with, and then you start to learn that I've got this one tan color that I always use. I've learned that that's the one I like, and then I've got this gray that I like, and so then that's kind of your baseline again, and then you can kind of tweak that mixture a little bit more. And again, it's just from trial and error and learning what you like. I mean, some people, when you look at their miniatures, they're really bright. Like it's interesting. Like when you look at my Continentals, they're way too bright for what they would be in real life. And
miniatures have historically often been that.
Yes.
That painted that way to pop on the table.
And that's why I do it. I like the look, and to me, at that small scale on a table, by the time you get 3 to 5 feet away, to me it looks better. But I've also watched, a lot of videos of people painting, or Continentals like I'm talking now, and they use the more realistic colors and do just a little bit of highlighting, and it's all darker colors typically. And gosh dang, those look really good too. Although I guess you could probably argue when I'm seeing them, they're like 4 inches big on my monitor. When they put them out on the table en masse, it probably maybe doesn't have the same effect. So that's what I always try to go with. It's a representation. It's the same colors, but I brighten them up a bunch, and I do that with my World War II stuff. I do across the board. But again, if you don't like that look, that's just what I like, and I like the overall effect of that. But anyway, that's just kind of a few things that I guess I do, and the way I approach my painting, and the way I look at it. But
yeah. While you were talking about all the old style of black lining and everything, you remember these old Citadel bottles?
You bet.
Yeah.
Those are the worst. Absolute worst.
It's like I have 4 of them. I used to mix my different colors in them.
Oh,
that
sure.
I use my lining. Like here's a brown one. This one is a rust color, dark rust color.
Okay.
This was a black, which is now all dried out. And this was a second black one. I had 2 black ones that I went through the most. Would go through and just put all the colors in, and then do the same thing I do now, except now I use all the washes, and that was before they had those washes out there on the market.
Right. Yeah, and that's true too, because they had inks more, so they really didn't have washes back when I was first painting, but you could find inks. But that's a whole different.
The inks thing. It's like, use these inks, but you had to let them dry for a week. It seemed like.
Yeah, and they were so bold. I mean,
they were very potent.
They were very aggressive.
Yeah, I would agree.
And so you let them sit there and having to dry out.
Yeah, that was the thing too. I remember that. And they'd be sticky forever. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like because they're mostly oils based, I think.
Yeah, I don't know.
And when I first started using them, I was always, I was like, okay, I got tired of using them because I just wanted to keep, I want these things painted, and then, I can't because I got to let them dry out before I can move on to anything. Because if you put any paint over them, they would bleed. And that's by finding out they bled when I was doing my Undead Army back in the early 90s. And I painted a whole bunch of my what do you call them? The mummies. Remember the mummies from the
Undead? The old ones. Yeah.
You mean not BattleTech? They weren't BattleTech?
No.
Okay, because I just need a reason I need to crack into this beer. I haven't had a sip yet, so
you don't need permission. BattleTech.
There you go. But yeah, it's like I painted all these guys with white, and all of a sudden they started bleeding through, and the next thing I was like, you know what? That's actually kind of a cool effect. And that's when I really first learned how to start doing equivalent washes.
Okay.
It was just by accident.
Yeah.
It was like the discovery of penicillin.
Yeah, it's like.
Yeah. That's the thing. Do you guys find you get into a rut too? Probably. I mean, I do. Like even like once I found like the flesh tones I like, my 3 layers of flesh in the wash I use, I don't change it at all, and sometimes maybe I should, I guess, but you just it's what I do. So I don't know.
Yeah, you do get into ruts sometimes. It's like you're on autopilot. You don't think about what you're doing. You're just doing it.
Well, and you like the look, but not that you wouldn't like something better. I mean, because this isn't the way I've always done it. It's just the way I've done it for probably 3 years or 4 years or something. But
yeah, it's when I was doing this Daredevil model. It's like I'm on autopilot anymore when it comes to reds.
Yeah, you got your red recipe you like.
Yeah, it's like, this works good.
Yeah,
and you're on autopilot. You don't even think about it, and then you eventually go, you know what? Maybe I should try something different, a different technique, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. I've thought of that too.
Yeah.
And then the other guy on your other shoulder kills the guy on that shoulder, and then you still do the same thing.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Yeah, I don't want to start a fight, so I just stick with the old.
The old guy, he's always telling us what to do.
Yeah, I don't want to hurt his feelings anyway.
Anybody? No.
So who's next?
Yeah, Rusty, I think you still have to go now. Like you've been talking, but I think you still have to talk about your favorite painting. Methods.
Officially.
Yeah, my favorite painting method anymore is, to be honest, I just like kind of painting with washes anymore.
Huh.
Or I'll lay down my base colors, and then I'll just start going in with multiple layers of wash to get a graduated effect out of it. You know?
Mm-hmm.
And then if I need to, I can always go over top of it again with, you know, the original colors to brighten it up or something. But when I did that test with that, remember the giant spider?
Yeah.
I did that just because I wanted to see if I could do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized, heck, it's an interesting technique. You can really make things start popping, because it's similar to the old line effect like we used to do, where, you know, you're going over it and, you know, you're filling in the cracks and crevices, but now you're doing it's like multiple glazes,
Mm-hmm.
where you go into the cracks and crevices first, and then you just go a very thin glaze and you work your way out, and you just kind of gradually work once it's dry, you put, okay, I'm going to put another glaze of color this way, and you're making that color gradient,
Mm-hmm.
that shadowing.
So do you have a brand of washes that you prefer, or is it a variety?
Well, I just use,
Or do you
because
make your own?
the Citadel stuff, they have, you know, a set of what I prefer for the colors. You know, it's like Reichland Flesh Slate, Seraphim Sepia,
Yeah.
and what is this? Caraborn Crimson.
Yeah. I use all three of those.
And then you may not think about it, but there's, what is this one called? It's Cassandra Yellow.
Is that a wash or is that a
It's a wash.
contrast paint?
It's a shade.
I recognize the name.
Yeah, they have so many of these washes now. Then they also have those, I don't know what the heck they call them. I have a couple here. I don't know what the heck are these things called? Technical paints.
Yep, that's right.
I've tried the technical paints and I still haven't figured out, because here's the green one. It's supposed to give you that glow, death glow type thing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I have what's it called?
This one is Hex Wraith Flame.
Oh, okay, that's not the one I have. I have something else. But it's a technical paint.
And I haven't figured out how to use it yet, because I've always ended up with a mess. It's like,
okay.
yeah, it's like I watched some videos of them, you know, online, you know, that how Citadel was telling you how to use it, and I tried it and was like, no, this is not working.
It's not working. Do you use any of their contrast paints or anybody's contrast paints? I've never tried a single one. I'd like to. There's just too many choices now. I mean, Army Painter has theirs, and Citadel has theirs, and
Vallejo now has one.
who?
Just Vallejo just came out with one.
Yes, I was gonna say there's three that have like complete lines of them. Because I've watched videos that they do comparisons of them all, and certain ones I really like the look of from the different manufacturers. So I haven't messed with them yet, but I'm tempted. They look cool.
No, I haven't. I don't think I've even bought any of theirs.
Yeah, I haven't bought any either.
I've not
Not
tried any contrast paints.
Huh? We are old musty wargamers. Jeez.
I know that they have them, but
you want to talk about musty? You know what brand I'm painting with right now? Go back in your mental archives. And no, it's not poly-S. And it's.
I was thinking of the old enamel paints for the model kits and the squarish kind of bottles. You know, like the little glass square bottles, and like the
poly-S.
Alpartha.
I'm using
I was
raw
thinking-
Partha.
Yeah.
That's what
You're
I'm
using,
I'm raw
and-
Partha right now.
and is it enamel?
No, it's
It's
It's still acrylic.
It's acrylic. It's the old
Yeah.
ones that these are literally say raw Partha on them.
Yeah, I can't imagine you'd be using enamel. But
No, God, no. I mean, that's old school. We
Well,
should
I have-
do that.
I have-
we
I
should
have
do
some
an
that are
enamel
enamel.
painting challenge sometime.
we should actually, and I would do it. Like I actually have some. I have some Raoul Partha, Julie Guthrie sculpted fantasy personality miniatures that are in enamel.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what the crazy thing is. These Raoul Partha paints are like 30 years old and they still good.
And they're still good. All
I
of
gotta
mine are
jump-
still good.
I got to jump in because Brad actually knew exactly what I was talking about. His testers.
Oh, those little testers ones.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
you-
what I was thinking of.
Oh my god!
That's what I
My
started
first-
with building model kits.
My first BattleTech miniatures were painted with testers enamels.
Battletech. Oh.
Cheers!
Homer was getting thirsty. That's good.
Well, I will jump in, I suppose, on the painting discussion. There are a lot of things that I think I've kind of picked up little tools in the trade over the years, and I won't initially mention any one that's the most important in that, whether it be doing an oil wash on an acrylic miniature to get into the recesses, or whether it be learning how to paint with inks comic style, like we kind of talked about before recently. Those are all kind of cool things that I like to do in certain situations, but they're not like that one thing that I would say has affected all of my painting, and my answer is probably not that much different than Rusty's in concept, in that glazing as a practice, like glazing, which can be anything from doing one coat of paint with a bright coat of paint over it in certain spots, and then putting another thin, really, really thin coat of paint of the same color over it again to deaden that brightness down and create a nice transition. That's an extreme example on one side of like a very low level use of creating a highlight like really quickly, to doing extreme thin washes over each other, to create such a glaze where it's literally just a wash over a wash over a wash over a wash, to the point where you're getting Ray 1 is like the other end of the spectrum of the time and the amount of layers that you're going to do. I like oftentimes to go somewhere in the middle where I'm using thin layers, and I like to use a glaze medium. I always have this right next to me for this reason, the Vallejo glaze medium.
Okay.
And they have also, not to be confused with the matte medium, which is not the same thing, but the glaze medium. And I'm always thinning my paints with glaze medium, and sometimes with water with flow aid.
What's the difference on the glaze? What does that do? What's the difference between that?
I find the glaze medium is thinner in my mind. Like the matte medium is also something that you can use. I actually find the matte medium is kind of good for something that's really thin that you want to actually give a bit more body to, but it is basically like the stuff that's in paint. Matte medium is as I understand it. I'm not going to claim being an expert.
That's my understanding here.
Glaze medium is made for glazing, so it's thinner.
Does it have less? What's the word? Cohesion or whatever? Is it more?
Well, no. It's actually compared
because
to
like water will bubble up. Like on. So does it eliminate that tension, water tension? Is that what it's doing, or what?
Well, this is the thing: is if we're talking about how, like, when I use water with flow aid, if you use too much water or that kind of stuff, then you can get the separation within the paint, like that you don't want, right? Like you can get it so it can get too thin. It can even like break up the separation within the paint and the particles. The glaze medium is what prevents that for me. Is it allows you to thin it and create a glaze, but also to maintain the consistency of your pigments. Okay. And so for me, I really like to maybe shoot for between 3 and 4 levels of gradient of a color when highlighting. And now, granted, this isn't for my quick painting, like, you know, but this is when I do want to spend some time on a miniature and like get a nice kind of blends, you know, of the
Right.
same color. And to me, when I was able to start doing that successfully, that's the thing that sort of stayed with me forever. Like so every
Okay.
miniature I do, I'll probably do some level of it, even if it's just a low level on quickly, like, you
Okay.
know, because even to be fair, and like some of my favorite miniatures that I painted are my French Indian War miniatures. But when I do like my red coats, I didn't glaze like 6 different times for that red. But I would do a dark color and then a medium color, and then I would start glazing some highlights over the top to create some brightness. And it was more traditional painting. It wasn't like, you know, contrast. But that to me is what I enjoy. And I'll give you an example here. You probably won't be able to see this, honestly. But like if
Blow up
you're probably
make your
you're probably
screen
not
big.
yeah, you're not going to be able to see this, I don't think. And so I don't know why I'm even trying. But
It's Ant-Man.
well, this is Wasp. And
Okay.
you really probably can't see in the dark here that I've done a lot of glazing on her. But when you look under the light, normally, like on a video,
Mhm.
there is like there's a fair bit actually of, and now some of this is truly just two-tone painting, which I think you can see, like under the armpits and stuff. Like I have a darker red and a lighter red,
Okay.
but then I have for both of them, I've done some glazing, and in particular on hers, just because of the style of miniature, I've done some more glazing, and it's something that I just find always for me kicks up my painting a notch.
So go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's it. That's all. That really is it.
Well,
Let me just,
this was how is glazing different than blending then?
well,
Is it the same effect kind of, but a different technique? Or
all
am I
right.
wrong?
I'll take a shot at this answer and then let people correct me, because I don't think I'm like a total expert, but to me, it's in the word. And like blending, you're trying to take two different things and get a different tone.
Yeah.
Whereas
Okay.
glazing, you're actually using mostly the same tone. And you can, but you can glaze like a wet pigment, like a wet paint over a dry paint of a different color, and it's probably still glazing, because what you're doing is you're putting thin layers of filters, you know,
Okay.
over
Yeah.
that color. Whereas
More of a
blending, you're
yeah.
actually taking two wet paints of a different color and you're actually changing the tone altogether and mixing the pigments together.
Yeah.
Right?
I see.
Am I wrong in that?
Blending is the technique I do is you're taking two different colors of paint and you're blending it physically on the model.
Right. It's like mixing paint on the model almost.
Yeah. So you're
But when
getting
Okay.
and
what
it's similar to what we do in watercolors. You can take this color and this color here on the paper, and then you take your water and you can blend them together and create a gradient in between them.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
that's so you're doing a blending on the model.
In glazing, the key is that it's sort of they're translucent coats you're putting on top.
Yes.
Correct?
Yep.
Okay.
But all acrylic is translucent, as a paint. All acrylic is technically translucent.
Really?
Yep. I know that in a practical level, if it's really thick paint and you slap it on, you might, you won't see what's underneath it. But when acrylic paint dries, it always is supposed to show, even if it's imperceptible, the layer underneath it.
Okay.
And that's why if you actually prime in black versus white, if you cover the prime, technically speaking, one should be brighter than the other with the same paint underneath it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good example. Yeah, on priming, then painting over that with that's true.
So I don't know. I find it's a fairly big subject, glazing, like, and the way you can be used and to what degree you're doing it and all that. But the day that I started, like, that started clicking and I started doing it and practicing with it, like miniature after miniature and doing that, then that was the biggest tool for me.
So what you got you started doing that? Did you see a video, or you just
Oh, I know.
like
I'm not
the
sure.
concept seemed interesting, and or it seemed easier than mixing and or than blending? Because blending is hard. Your
Yeah,
paints dry so quick.
I think blending's harder than glazing for me.
Yeah.
Right, that's what I mean. I think it would be.
Yeah, no, I have no idea what started me on it. I'm
Huh,
sure I was just glued to YouTube like I used to be. Like I'm not anymore. Like I used to watch a million YouTube painting videos, and I think
yeah.
somebody along the line was. I think I probably learned it. Now that I think about it, I probably learned it when I was trying to learn how to paint cloaks.
Okay.
Because with cloaks,
Yeah.
you have the recesses and you have the high areas within the folds for like Warhammer 40K, like capes and wizards and things like that. And you're trying to kind of use the same color, but you want to show the lightness and the darkness.
Right. Right. Yeah, I gotcha.
And a lot of those cloaks, because I wasn't using glaze medium and I was watering too much, would start having like circles and like breaking the paint up and like having areas that were running, with the too thin and just not covering well enough, and like it was a lot of learning for that. And that's why
Hmm.
I keep glazed medium all the time right next to me.
When you're talking about blending, my most of my demons for 40K, I did a lot of blending on those.
Okay.
It was just trying to get that effect I was looking for. Because the when you look at chaos, they always say that the colors are always shifting on them. So that's kind of the look I was trying to get with them.
So do you guys ever just try a technique? I know,
Yeah.
Palmer, you do. You've mentioned, and I didn't know, Rusty, if you have. You just try to teach yourself some new techniques or try new things, like just on either as the challenge or to try to grow your painting. You do that, don't you, Rusty, too? Same way, like you're saying?
Yeah, there are times when I'll just look at something and it's like, okay, I'm gonna give myself a shot at see. It's like I used to watch a lot of the Games Workshop. What's his face that was on there? He always was showing, try this technique, do this or that. And I was like, okay.
Okay.
And I was doing a lot of trying stuff out, whatever they were doing differently.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely do that. And usually the way I try to do it is because oftentimes I'm wed to a certain look in my miniatures for something.
Yeah.
And I can't just within one army do different techniques and try and experiment and then have the army look different from each other. I'll
Yep.
usually pick a project, whether it be one miniature or whether it be, like my comic style where I do all the comic that way. And I'll try to do the new technique on an example of a new project that I'm going to do. And then carry that along. And if it's successful, just continue with that. And that's how the comic style painting happened for me.
Okay. See, that's the thing I was going to say too, that like when I'm, which I'm not a very prolific painter. So like you can't change your style midstream on an army. And then of course I also, some of those more advanced techniques are probably, I don't know, maybe not, but better suited to either smaller projects or one-offs, and I don't do much of that. So maybe that, because I feel like maybe I'm not as experienced of a painter like as you guys. I mean, for sure Rusty has painted 100 million more figures than I have. But I don't, I mean, my painting has definitely grown, but yeah, I don't find myself trying a lot of new things other than mixing. And
let me interject with that. Like I would say when you started doing your freehand for your Bretonians as a project, that was exactly what we're talking about. Like that was you trying new stuff.
yeah.
Unless you did that before and I'm not aware of it.
No, I hadn't.
Yeah, that is a risk to do that stuff with those models. As far as I'm concerned, like it's a perceived risk. How is this going to come out? And it requires stretching yourself from your skill level, and not only did you do it well, but you continued with it throughout the whole army. And so I think that is exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah, that could be. And I guess that was one thing. I guess probably where I've progressed the most, and it was definitely through the Bretonian army, which I will be continuing to work on, but was being more technical, like even figuring out how to paint a checker pattern, and especially on that wavy fabric, how to, even how to, some of those fleur-de-lis I paint, I think on a couple of the nights, there's like 50 of them on there, little ones, and how to figure out how to make that, how to replicate that over and over, make it look the same and make it look right. And some of those kinds of things, I guess, and just being really neat with it. I mean, yeah, because it's not terribly hard to paint a checker pattern, but to make it, where all the checkers are the same size as it's flown across the fabric. And so I think that's, and that I never look at that really as like painting technique as much as just like, it's almost like a better understanding of spatial relationships in 3D, as far as how should that checker or that fleur-de-lis lay across that fabric that's all wavy and folded. How would that look then from the side? That was the tricky part, but that was more of an understanding of how, more of a 3D spatial concept as opposed to any kind of technique per se. But
I don't know though. I hate to disagree with you, but I understand what you're saying. But a lot of art is technical and like not what we would say is, oh, like he could just draw amazingly well. Like it's not all true. It's not all that. A lot of it, like washes alone, are just like an example of using a technique to gain an artistic result. That's actually very, very much about like the technical aspect of the materials you're using and how you apply them. And I would say that you say that it's not hard to do a checker pattern, but I think a lot of people struggle with that actually.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know. I'm not trying to disagree with you just to disagree with you, but it's a matter of perception.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
What's easy for you is really hard for somebody else.
That's true. And of course I worked on it. It wasn't like it just, that was easy. I had to keep working on it. And part of that with my cheating of, or at least I call it a cheat, of sketching it on there first, helps me make sure that I'm off on the right foot.
Which is art. I mean, sketching is art. I mean, artists sketch before they paint on canvas, right? It's all art.
That's true. And I guess even like the most advanced artists and the most famous painters, in galleries, they're using a brush and they're using paint and they're using canvas or a miniature. Same as anybody. It's just learning. I mean, you can plunk all the tools that those, even the Golden Demon miniature painters, all the tools that I probably have most of them right here. I mean, and what I don't have, I could buy at a local hobby shop type thing. So it's not like it's sort of like they take this and then magic happens. It is, like you say, it is largely technique, understanding the interactions of, like Palmer, you're saying the different mediums that you use, and like Rusty with, experimenting with the glazes, and you can get, and I've learned that too, even like on weathering my tanks or my buildings, that, just stuff that you wouldn't even have thought would work. And a lot of times there's that awkward stage in the middle where it looks, and I've gotten enough confidence with some of that now that I'm like, well, I know even if it gets going down the wrong path, I know how to bring it back, or to hang with it, because it's gonna, this is the middle phase to where we start. We're gonna tie it all together yet, and having confidence.
If you do hard highlights before you put a wash or a glaze, you're like, oh my god, this is horrible now. And then you put that over, and you're like, that's nice.
That blended it nicely. Yeah. And so it's trusting that, and some of it's a lot of it's just experience, and then also not being afraid to be, because some of that, like you say, those if you're going to do a wash over a model that you've highlighted, you need to be aggressive with the highlights. And I've even found when I use my matte varnish, I need to be more aggressive on my highlights. Like it almost has to be, and I don't know if it's just me or it's the varnish I use, but it must matte down the brightness of those colors enough.
Yeah, it does.
It ties it together nicely, but sometimes when I first started doing that, I'm like, well, I need to brighten that up before I do that. So then it brings it down to where I wanted it to be as opposed to too far down. But that's experience.
So sometimes you look at something and say, oh man, that's just too bright and garish. And then you put the wash on it and goes, and it's just right.
Yep, it's just right. So, yeah.
It's interesting. You kind of learn all this stuff. It's like sometimes, I don't know the best way to explain it, but like sometimes you can try to be like ultra realistic and you can spend like a ton of time, but because you're not aggressive enough and you're too subtle, like you just don't see anything in the end. Like, you know, like, and how many of us have been there, right? In our progression, right? And you're just like, I spent so much time on this. You know how many different highlights are on this? And it doesn't pop at all. You know what I mean? Like,
or it does, but it has to be like under this certain type of light bulb under this lamp. Then it looks really nice, but just almost anywhere else or even natural sunlight, you're like, man, that doesn't look like it just, So I've done that. You got to be aggressive. And I like the look of aggressive highlights. And I learned that partly from watching other people's YouTube channels. You know, there are different painting styles that grab me. Like Leon T66, he does fairly aggressive highlights, and I like the pop of that. And so it's learning what you like. There is no wrong way to do it, obviously, but to make yourself happy, you need to understand what you're trying to achieve, I guess.
Yeah. When I was in art school doing watercolors, and I had one of the instructors was just like, you need to really get aggressive sometimes with your colors. You know, it's like the subtleness sometimes gets lost amongst the trees, literally, you know.
Yep.
So they want you to, you know, get bold and bright. And when you look at something, sometimes a bright, bold something next to a darker color actually kind of blends together really nice.
Yeah, that's true.
To go back to some of the other stuff you were talking about, you know, I don't know if you remember that painting project I did with the orcs, where I painted, I think it was like 50 orcs with the checker pattern on their shoulders.
Oh gosh, yeah, on the shoulder pads.
Yeah, it was like, after a while, it was like, I'm sleeping and I'm seeing checker patterns in my brain. You know, it's like when I'm asleep. But after a while, once you do enough of them, you do like 20 or 30 of them, it's like next, you know, you're not even thinking about it. You're just doing it.
Yeah.
And the technique comes together. Now, you were talking about trying to figure out how to try something different in a technique, or try different techniques. Find a single model. Let's say it's a fantasy.
Okay.
Take like a troll or something like that, where you got one model of it, and just experiment. And if you come out,
I should.
And if it comes out with a totally different look, that means it's just a different species of troll, or it has a different coloration or something.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
yeah, there's lots of one-off things I could do. I just tend to get so down. It's like, oh man, I want to keep making progress on this project. So I'm every free second, I tend to just keep hammering away on the same thing.
I think the other thing that's worth mentioning with these kinds of this idea is that some people will hear this discussion and they'll say, you know what, I'm actually totally happy with how I paint, and I don't really want to do it any differently. You know, I'm totally content with how I paint, and you know, and I think that's totally fine too, right? I mean, in the sense that, like, just because, you know, what we're saying here is just by doing different things, you do pick up different skills and different ways of doing the same thing. And somebody might say, well, you know what, you just said it's different ways of doing the same thing. It's the same thing. I'm just going to stick with what I do because I like it, and that's totally fine too. You know, like you don't have to do something differently. Once you figured out how you like to paint,
Yeah, that's
you don't
true.
you don't have to. I've found that by allowing myself to fail and to try something that I don't know how to do, that it's the best way for me personally
To learn.
to reach new plateaus. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
but that's not to say that the way somebody paints isn't already good, and they just want to bang through armies and they have kind of their style, and there you go.
Yeah, exactly. Nothing wrong with that.
And it's like when you think about it in some way, is that, let's say you got a commission project. Like for me, if I have a commission project and I want to paint it out really quick, I'm not going to experiment on that. I'm just going to know what works the best and the quickest, and that's
Get
what
the
I'm gonna
result
do.
that the customer's wanting, and you just move with that.
Yeah.
It's about
Now-
speed and agility.
If it's something that's my own and I want
Mhm.
to try something different, I have no problem just every once in a while breaking something new out. And I was just like, okay, I got this one model over here. It's like, I feel like painting something, but I don't know what I want to paint. But I got one model. I'm going to just, the next thing you know, you just find yourself kind of like the old plein air style of painting where you're just letting whatever happens, you know?
Yeah.
But,
Sounds kind of fun.
yeah, let nature just take its course. And it may be a disaster, it may not be. You never know.
I just put some. I just did a glaze on, just like a basic glaze, just on my reds here. But this is not. This was just, I took the base paint, which was really dark. It was literally burnt red, and
Yeah.
now I've actually mixed some red and some
Kind of a brownish.
dark vermilion, which is
Okay.
really light,
Oh,
really
okay.
light, really light. And I've it maybe you can see it there a little bit. It's starting to brighten up now, and I'm going to do another. It's actually a lot brighter under the light here. I guess I could try
Yes.
to show that there. It's a lot brighter under the light when you look at it there. But I'm going to do another one with just vermilion on the raised areas a little bit, and then I'm going to probably splash it with extremely thin burnt red wash that I'll make. That'll act like a wash, but it'll be the same tone that I've been working with. And then I'll probably just be done with, like, for these guys, like with that red, like with how I'm going to do it.
Right.
But I think that's
Nice.
how I'll do it. Yeah, that's how I'll do it. It's not unlike how I did my red coats, to be honest. But I want these guys to be the Dragon Ogres. I'm kind of thinking they're a little more corn, you know, like Allegiance. Oh, let me get back to the main screen. They're a little more corn Allegiance, you know, like for Warhammer.
Right.
I'm making them, you know, even though they're like kind of Chaos Undivided, most of the army, I'm kind of making them a little more corn-like because of their they just seem like they should be.
Cornflakes.
Mm-hmm.
Corn. I like corn. Corn and beans.
Yeah,
Hey.
I was gonna say is that never be afraid to try something new. Just go for it.
That's true.
Yeah, that's true. I guess I tend to not jump in deep on something, but my painting obviously has evolved. It's more of a slow evolution as opposed to. And I do actually, you know, I've got a few of like the Cote d'Armes paints that are fairly thin in my estimation.
Yes.
And I use them slightly as glazes, I guess you would say, because I like the look of it. I mean, I'm sort of inadvertently doing that. If I'm doing it over a highlight or as a highlight. And I'll put a couple coats of that on, but I'm kind of using it essentially as a glaze in a way
Yep.
because I'm using it in that same to get that same effect. So, yeah, maybe I'm getting there.
Well, that's the same idea.
Might have tried something new there, Palmer, and I didn't know it.
What happened there?
Whoa.
Happy.
Yeah, because I know on my Soviets, that's what I was doing actually for the highlights on their uniforms. I was using Cote d'Armes paints largely for that project. Excuse me. And actually bought they have a Soviet, World War II Soviet paint set that I bought way back. And I tried to use that quite a bit. Anyway.
Yeah, let's see. I got a old Team Yankee Soviet paint set.
Oh, nice. Did you use it?
Yeah, when I had Soviet, actually it was 15 mil World War II armies that I had to paint up, so I used that.
Way to go, yeah.
It made it a lot easier because there were times when I was like I couldn't find what I wanted, and I'd have to mix stuff together to get the right.
Yeah, and that's kind of a pain when you're trying to do an army, if you're trying to keep it all the same.
Well, the one thing about, like, say, the Soviet army
in
World War II,
well, they weren't very uniform.
Yeah, it's like each year, even season, the colors were because they were just getting whatever dyes they could that were.
Yeah, the factories were just all over the place behind the lines, just cranking whatever out. So, but I like to keep, you try to keep them sort of uniform to tie it together, I guess. But
yeah, I went to war and I haven't gotten a uniform in forever. It's faded from combat.
Yeah,
all my time in the field.
I'm going to beat this down with a darker thin wash, but this almost is getting to the point of early GW red, like
yes,
the brightness.
90s.
Yeah, like on the top of the head there, like I just put on there.
Yeah,
I just went straight dark vermilion, which is called dark vermilion, but it's a bit of a misnomer. It's a very bright red. But yeah, that's kind of cool. And I'll probably just beat it back a little bit with a thin red dark wash.
What who makes that paint?
That's Vallejo model color.
It is Vallejo. I was gonna say it sounds like a Vallejo color.
Yeah. I love Vallejo.
Yeah, me too. I have mixed feelings on dropper bottles myself, but
I really like them. I know people have lots of reasons that they don't. I was going to ask you guys this question. I got a question.
What's that?
I don't find my Vallejo stuff ever dries out, and like my model color. And is it that because like the dropper bottle just immediately dries in the tip, and I do have to take a toothpick and basically make another hole, for the dried paint. But does that seal because it's just sealed so well?
Yeah.
I mean, I find that they just don't dry out, and that's a huge problem I have with the GW ones is how fast they dry out.
Yeah, you're not wrong there. Yeah, I've never had a Vallejo dry out.
Yeah, it's the same thing as like these old Rao Partha paints. It's like they seal up so nicely that they live forever.
I've got a bunch of their empty bottles that I bought that I put the Citadel paints in them when I get it, and then use the old Citadel pot to tell their to use that paint up, and then after that's gone, then I've got that in the Raw Partha container that stays nice forever. I don't know. It's not magic. It's just a screw-on lid. I don't know why it's so hard.
Well, one of the worst things with Games Workshop stuff is that it just pops together, and if you get any itty bitty amount of paint in that seal,
which you will, you almost can't not. I mean,
well, the whole concept that when you open it up, the paint
drains back into the lid and to the side of the bottle. Yeah,
and so you're going to end up with a freaking mess.
Yeah, it's just annoying because those old hex pots were the last ones they made that were, the 90s. They were the last ones they made, because I still have some of those that I use that are perfect. With the plastic hex pot with the, yes, it right there.
Yeah.
Which,
Still
by the
good.
way, did you see War Colors just released? They're available now. They're what are they calling it? Nostalgia 94 or something?
I've
'Cause
heard of those.
they had the Nostalgia 88 paints, and those were the old GWs. And then these 94s, I think they call it 94. They're supposed to be formulated like those hex pots that Rusty just held up.
Ah,
And I just saw somebody, Ted Gunnarsson or whatever. He's big in Warhammer Fantasy stuff. He just got his set today. I saw it on Facebook right before I got on here tonight.
And
And
see,
so we'll have to see what people think of them. But
the old pop top ones, the hexagonal ones, that was what, 94 to about 2000.
yep. Mm-hmm.
And then they went to this other style of hexagonal with the flip lid. The only problem
Was the screw top? Wasn't it the screw top next, or was it the flip? It was the screw top. That black screw top lid.
Yeah.
Wasn't that next? Those are the worst.
And then they had these flip lids. These came out, I think, maybe 2005.
Yeah, no, I don't know. Something like that. Oh, but just one last thing on the War Colors. The Nostalgia 88 were in the same pots that Games Workshop used, the round pot with the flip lid.
Nice.
But the 94s, they've released them in dropper bottles, whether people like that or not. But that's just to throw that out there.
Seems interesting that you would
they
make a choice to go away.
Yeah, they did a poll because I subscribed to their page or whatever. So they had a poll to see what people wanted, and then they did, evaluated it. And some people, one of the choices was to use the old exact hex pot like it was, and that's what I voted for. But if you're doing nostalgia, let's go all the way. And there was nothing wrong with those pots if they could do the same. But I think nowadays, so many people are, prefer the dropper bottles. Again, like you said, Palmer, if you're mixing paints, it's 2 drops of this and 3 of that, and then it's never going to dry out because you put that lid back on right away. So I get that. That's what they decided.
Now, since we're talking about paints, this may sound strange, but this is what I use to paint Daredevil.
No way. Apple barrel paint.
Apple barrel. It's like 79 cents from Walmart.
Doesn't get any more premium than that, buddy.
It takes a lot more layers, but it's like painting. I painted that whole thing with glazes, then I put a wash over it. But
yeah, interesting. I do all my terrain with those kinds of paints, whether they're from Hobby Lobby or wherever. But I've never painted a miniature like that. Although there's that channel. Have you ever watched Commander Cheapskate? He does a lot of old GW games. He's built a lot of Warhammer Fantasy armies, but he'll use, some of them are proxies, all kinds of stuff. But I think he's basically built every army that was available back for 8th edition. Mm-hmm. And he uses, he's Commander Cheapskate because what his whole angle is, he uses those apple barrel paints and he paints his miniatures that way, and he shows, and I'm not saying, they're Golden Demon winning, but man, they don't look too darn. He does a nice job with the cheapo paints, and he shows how much money he saves buying these paints as if he went and bought GW paints. And anyway, it's just interesting. It can be done,
I'm just saying, it's like I purchased about 4 of these for the price of one pot of Games Workshop. And I have some of these are in my drawer here that are probably No, it's like I have a whole bunch of it because like you said, I paint terrain and everything.
Yep, we always use it, and they last forever.
And I have some in this drawer. They're probably from the 90s.
Yeah, they don't seem to dry out either.
Yeah.
I do add a couple drops to it, when after I use it, if it's sitting open for a little bit.
But it's pretty decent for what it is.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And I need to. My favorite paints I always liked using were Privateer Press. The only problem I had with Privateer Press was eventually, over time, the pop lid at the top would crack and break.
Okay.
I always kept extra. It was like, oh, that one's empty. I just keep it off to the side, and then when the lid breaks, I just pull another lid off an old one and keep on moving.
I think maybe we do have another topic we can chat about tonight. We will have to be a bit briefer than this one. No. It's. I think we should enjoy the topics, and I think we have, and take our time. We have a couple of comments. We probably just get to. So Chris says, when we're talking about your, how you like to paint, he says block in colors and then wash. And so that's like
that's his go-to
modus operandi.
Mm-hmm.
That's where Brad talked about testers. You're thinking of testers, Palmer. Just true. Bill came in. Hi, guys. So Bill says Scottish plaid pattern is what I struggle with, which I would agree with that. I mean, I think that's different than checker pattern in that you're trying to generally, when I've done it, you're trying to get some highlights across your crossing of your colors. Like, so you could have like the yellows that then have like a bit of a green.
Yeah, like a tartan.
The tartan. Yeah. And I did my own sort of quick way of doing mine that I really like the way they came out, but I won't say that like I'm a meticulous master at it. But I created some nice, like for my Scots for Saga, I enjoyed the way they came out my first week doing it. I did it my kind of my own way, but they were still kind of. They weren't meticulous to death, but I think they were kind of nice for tabletop for it. That can be difficult, particularly with what you're trying to achieve, the level you're trying to achieve.
I always find the hardest part about doing plaid or any of that kind of stuff is getting your lines so tiny that it actually, especially if it's on a small model, you don't want it to have it just like square and call it plaid. But
yeah,
I always think the yeah. Go ahead.
Now, do I have any more left, or are they dried out on me? But
I think the tricky part on tartan is where like you're trying to get the color to kind of show through, like you're saying, Palmer.
Yeah.
So that's
paint
takes some practice. Oh, I've never done that. That's
Well,
cheating.
it's
paint pens. Yeah,
paint pens. It's just like using a marker. It's just got a fine tip on it. You just doing all the work on it. This one's probably dried out. It's probably so old, but that's something I used in the past.
Yeah.
Here's another thing. Okay, is markers.
Mm-hmm.
So you can use markers sometimes to get your colors, especially if you got like a lighter color. Go over.
Sure.
When you got a fine tip marker, you just go over top of it and do your highlights that way too.
Mm-hmm.
There's different ways to skin the cat.
Bill says I use Army Painter paints. I've not used Army Painter paints for any particular reason. I've seen actually some of their paints look kind of nice. I like their quick shade inks tremendously. They're always on my desk. I own it, but I've not quite used their, what is the name of it? Dark tone. It's like more of a black gray spectrum instead of the brown spectrum, which I think is awesome. Because I like their inks. Because sometimes you like your browns don't work on the cold black gray spectrum well, like when you're trying to highlight with them. But I have like your soft tone and your strong tone, which I've used for a long time. But now I've got this. I still have to find something really to use it on. But I've got the dark gray tone. I could use it. I could brighten up this chainmail metallic with. I could take what I have, brighten it up with some silver to make it gleam, and then kick it back with some of this dark tone. Probably work well if it works anything like my other quick shade tones. That would probably be good.
Oh, sure.
That's like using a Nuln Oil. It'd be like using a Nuln Oil, on it.
Okay.
But
Did we lose Rusty?
it got quiet all of a sudden, and I'm thinking maybe we.
That's what I thought, because I can hear him rustling around.
Oh, there he is. He's back.
There he is.
You went away.
Everything went spinning for a second, but yeah, I need to get some sugar in me. Suddenly my blood sugar's crashing.
Well, you froze though. Your screen froze.
Yeah, you literally froze.
Yeah, everything's crashing around here.
You're like a cyborg. You're connected to the computer.
Yeah, it's like
I'm not feeling well, and the screen stops.
Yeah, it's like when your blood sugar starts crashing, all of a sudden you start sweating really bad, and you start feeling nauseous, and you're like, "Uh-oh." Like if I'm working, I always keep Starburst next to me.
Yeah,
You never know, just this occasion.
Huh.
How many shows have we done? It's never happened until today.
Yeah, I've never seen you grab that for that. I never knew that you liked the Starburst.
Mm-hmm.
They are good.
They are good. They're addictive. Yeah.
I've got what people at work, because I'm old at work, like most of the
Oh,
people I
those
work
things.
with.
Oh,
Yeah, I've got what people they call it grandparent candy is what they call it at work. And this is I actually I like them. Like I like the old candy that my grandparents used to have in a dish. Like they would get this like bag of stuff, and it would have like one would be like wrapped up, and it looked like almost like a little pillow with like white with fluorescent green stripes. Like what I'm talking about? Like all those.
Yeah.
Like,
Is that
old
the strawberry one?
This is a strawberry.
It's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
Strawberry ones.
Yeah.
I like
yeah.
those.
Yeah,
We used
they're good.
We'd get those at either Christmas or Easter.
We used to get the
Yeah.
ribbon candy. Do you remember ribbon candy?
Absolutely
That's
remember ribbon
grandparent
candy.
candy.
I love that stuff.
Me
Yeah.
too.
To me, that stuff's just really nostalgic, and
Yep.
like I
You
get
know-
the butterscotches. Like they come in the orange cellophane that have like a
Oh,
that are like
yeah.
a butterscotch. Yeah, like
Mhm.
I love those. But they
Same.
call at work when I have them on the counter. They all call it grandpa. Like I don't want any of the grandpa candy.
Fine then.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't go away. I still keep
Yeah,
putting it there.
it's Grandpa Palma.
Exactly.
Someday it will be.
Yeah.
Well,
What
tonight,
was your other topic, Palmer? We still got half hour.
we
can knock that.
that's true. We should talk about it. The other topic was games you do not know why you stop playing that and what you like about them. Like you like them and you have no idea. Like you're surprised as to why you stop playing them and what you like about them. Dan, do you want to start that one? Do you have a game that you stopped playing that you don't know why that you really liked?
Not really. I mean, I saw the topic kind of mid-afternoon. I was working, and I thought about it a little bit while I was working, but I don't play a lot, obviously, and I've been playing miniature games for very long. Only one that kind of crossed my mind, actually, though, was my local buddy and we got into muskets and tomahawks, and our thought was we were both interested. We were either going to do American Civil War or we were going to do AWI, and we went with AWI for I don't even remember the reason, and I think we thought it'd be more fun to paint. And so we thought start with muskets and tomahawks, as far as building your force, because it's small enough, it's skirmish, and wouldn't have to paint a lot. So we did that, and he got his mostly painted, but we got quite a few games in. I think one year we didn't play bolt action even. We just played muskets and tomahawks, and I really enjoyed the game. And actually, I've even bought Muskets and Tomahawks 2 or second edition or whatever. It's still in the wrapper. I mean, I got it when it came out. I pre-ordered it because we were still kind of into it. Never opened it, and we haven't played a game in several years, maybe 3 years.
Okay. Yep.
And I'm not really sure why. We just kind of went back to bold action. We didn't discuss it. We just kind of did. But I really enjoyed every game we had. I like the random, draw with the cards, and it's a storytelling game. It's definitely not a tournament style game, which is what we both enjoy. We're both on the same page there. The random events, and we never had a game that wasn't like gobs of fun.
Yeah.
So
no,
it's interesting, but for whatever reason, I don't know why we did that. But that's the only one I can really I'm sure we'll come back to it. It's not like we've lost interest or the game wasn't for us. We game so much less than we used to because his life has changed some. And so, that was kind of the only one I could think of.
How about you, Rusty? Which one do you?
Well, there's two big ones that come to mind. Is that we used to play Uncharted Seas all the time.
Oh, yeah.
That's a fantasy naval game system.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. I got pretty much every fleet there is to play with the game. And we played a lot. And then Dystopian Wars came out. And we quit playing it. We just went to the side and never looked back for some reason. Even though it's the same game, just with fantasy aspects to it. The mechanics are the same.
It's funny, once a game isn't supported, a lot of times, then whatever reason, people just kind of move away. It's weird. I don't know why.
It was supported by Spartan Games for a long period of time, and then they said, well, we're going to redo a new edition of it.
That's right.
And they pulled a lot of the stuff off, and they just quit updating the files and everything for it, and it just kind of languished. And then when the company folded, it just disappeared.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like, I'll mention kind of my thoughts on the games that I would pick, but I think this might not be the case for you guys, but I think the very fact that the nature of miniature wargaming is such that there's so many options of things to play, and you generally you mostly need someone else to play these things. I mean, unless you're just solo gaming, and so it's so easy for somebody to just start looking in another direction.
Yeah,
and even when you like what you're playing, it's just so easy to have at least one person among the group say, "Look over there," and then you're like, "Oh yeah, let's look over there," and then you just move away from it, and then the years go by in a blink of an eye, and then you're just like, "Oh, why do we ever stop playing that?" For me, the three that come to mind right off the bat, and two of them are kind of the same, like different but the same. Star Wars Armada and Star Wars X-Wing, kind of the same, like same company, same idea. But I really like both of those, in particular Armada, and like I only play with one person, and again, like we both look to other things and put other things in the queue, and then it just drowns it out, and we don't play it for a really long time. And then Saga would be one that I would say I really always liked. I would say, again, it mostly has to do with players looking in other directions. However, the only thing I'll stipulate with that is that I do think Saga suffered from one thing over time, and that is, as much as I liked the idea of the fantasy coming out, I think in some ways it jumped the shark with the fantasy version, and only in that. And I can't say this for sure because I haven't played it enough. I have played the fantasy version, but sometimes when you just continue to add unit types, it creates some balance kind of issues in the game, and I really think that it was at its pinnacle with the historical, like it was good enough, like with the way they had it. And then a lot of other things got added with the fantasy in order to be able to accommodate fantasy units. And I think it's fun. Like I actually really enjoyed playing some of the fantasy games, and I liked how you could get some of like the big creatures in and like trying to figure all that out. But they also added other things in addition to the big creatures, and this all still carried over with all the original units, all mixing together in that power struggle of points and doing that. And I question whether they jumped the shark with it. I don't know for sure. I know, Rusty, you have it, and I don't know if you've played it or enjoy it, but
Yeah, I picked it up when you were talking about it, when it first came out and you were playing your games. It was like, well, that sounds very interesting. So I did go out and pick it up. And then when the local shop decided to clearance it out, because for some reason it was like the flavor of the day, and then it just disappeared, I did pick up some of the other stuff to go with it, like some of the dice and everything, which is stacked up right there.
Yep.
Never did get to play a game of it.
Never get to play a game. I actually think it's definitely worth playing, and I love the Saga system. I guess for me, I'm most at home in the Dark Ages for Saga.
Yeah.
Like that's where I'm most at home within the game. I could play a game of Age of Magic. That's, I guess, what it's called, is that because they change everything to age of this, age of that. I just found that might have been one thing, but overall, because when I think back of playing Saga and wanting to play, I think I think of the historical. I'm thinking how I like to play with my Danes or my Scots.
Was that the Dark Age one?
Yeah,
it's like Dark Age Crusade.
Yeah,
and was there an Age Reason or something too?
Well, they did continue with a lot of things, and I'm not sure where they're at yet. But they also had, I think they did an Ancients version, which was, and then they did something else too, I believe. But for me, kind of like with Musket and Tomahawks and Sharps Practice, I kind of stay within a period in historical, and I try not to, for the same game, go into too many of them, because just because of the miniatures involved. Like, I'd be much more likely just to preserve my terrain and everything to get another Dark Ages army than I would to go into like Crusades.
Yeah, right.
Just because you get the majority of the game, right? Like the game is mostly the same, and so I'd rather build that world, the Dark Ages, and just experience that more full than spread myself too thin across lots of different genres. But
yeah, some of that was that I do have. Well, we never did get around to playing or even getting to it. Was that? But I picked up a whole bunch of Crusade era and Dark Age era 28 mil miniatures that I had planned on maybe using for either Magic or Crusade for that system. But
well, and I don't want to turn this into a big discussion about Saga, but like sometimes we all want different things from games, and Saga for me is sort of like a mixture of being like a strategic game that's almost like a cardboard style game, where you have like this thing happening on the side where you're rolling dice and placing things on abilities, and it's cool, like, because of that, and I really enjoy it. But then when you're doing stuff on the table to emulate that, it's really neat synergy, and I enjoy that. But then sometimes I'll say to myself, like, oh, with all of these like Dark Age miniatures, maybe I should go out and get myself like a skirmish game that's like a bit more traditional tabletop, and just to use those miniatures for that too. But it's not to say that I don't fully enjoy the way that Saga does it. I don't have a game that plays like Saga. Like, Saga is fairly unique for the games that I have, and for that reason, I actually like it. But then I get pulled, sometimes I'll play it enough and then I'll be like, well, it might be cool just to use these guys like normal, like, in a tabletop game, it'd be kind of interesting, so
more
I don't
traditional,
know. Yeah. It's a nice tournament style game, Saga. It's a nice tournament style game.
Okay. Yeah. And for some reason, I've watched playthroughs of it, and it looks interesting enough, but I don't feel a pull at all. I don't know if because, like you say, it's less of the traditional, where you got the sideboard that you're working, your special abilities, and I mean, it looks intriguing, but
unless you're, well, I don't know, maybe the video you watched was very good in showing how the sideboard really works and giving you the impression of being that person that needs to use it alongside. But it is so unique in that way that I would almost think it would be hard to capture on a video.
And that could well be. Yeah, you're probably right, because some games just don't transpose well, from a watching on YouTube. I mean, watching in person, at least you'd be able to see better. But if the YouTube doesn't capture exactly what they're doing on the sideboard and what their decision-making process is, that's the important game within a game, really, is what it is.
Yeah. I don't know. So Armada is one that I really always love, and I'd like to play more of. And I actually bought I bought the whole other side, and it's all boxed up. Like, I have like the Imperial side, even though I always played the Rebels. And I love that game. The reason I bought the whole other side is I knew that the game was almost done, and I just wanted it forever. Like, I wanted to always be able to play it. And so I have everything.
Has it been discontinued?
Might as well be. I think something came out recently where they created some sort of scenario pack that you can use to play to keep it in. It's almost like limping it along, but there's been no new miniatures, no new units. And so basically, it's
run its course. They're going to let it. At some point, the miniatures will be discontinued. Then
I almost think it should be. It's almost like what I was saying with Saga earlier. I think it's really hit its stride, and I really think the more you put into it now, the more you have a chance of ruining it. Mm-hmm. Like, you have some games get that way.
Yeah. Well, you look at X-Wing, where they were reaching, trying to put new content out for the game, and then eventually they said, well, we're just going to go to a second edition, and if you have anything, it's now worthless. I
remember there was a lot of bitterness when that happened.
It's like, if you have all these ships, and like, okay, I got to spend how much, $500 more to bring my ships up to second edition. To heck with that,
that's what I kind of heard.
Oh,
but X-Wing was a great game, in the sense of, in its purest sense, the movement dial and the movement templates created a really elegant.
Yeah, I have played about 3 games of X-Wing quite a few years ago. My brother actually bought it, and we played. That is cool. And you could use those same mechanics for almost any kind of airplane type game, or almost even a naval game. I mean, just the mechanics of it were fun and easy to use.
The Wings of Glory, was pretty much the same mechanics. They didn't use a dial, but they had cards that did the same thing.
Okay, and the turn templates and all that is really cool.
And I'm very interested in that. And I know that theirs was a little bit different in that you would have the 3 cards you would put down. It was like a little bit different, but I still really liked it, the idea of it. And I kind of looked into the World War I stuff, but by the time I looked into it, it was already kind of mostly not being sold, and it was getting really expensive. And so I just was like, forget that. I've been down that road before, trying to
chase down
with my old Hammer stuff alone.
We do have a year or 2 late to the party, and it's like, okay, I can't afford to get into this party anymore.
I was going to do a couple comments here. Brad says, I enjoy using Vallejo. Bill says, if I didn't have the paint collection I own, I would get scale 75. And I've never used them.
Thanks. Never used them either.
I don't think I've ever seen them.
We're back to your candy there, and you were eating. He's like, I've been eating sugar-free candy recently, says Bill. And he says, I stopped playing Infinity Miniatures. I love that game, yet I feel I would be on the back foot if I started up against it's such a crunchy game. And I totally understand that, because I really like the Infinity Miniatures. I've never played it as much as I would have liked to. I would love to still play it, but it is actually definitely it's a challenging rule set, I think, in some ways.
Yeah, I turned around just up and sold all the painted stuff I had because couldn't find anybody to play anymore.
Yeah.
Brad says, I enjoy Saga, just a lot of games to pick from. Age of Hannibal is out. Age of Crusade is out as well.
Yeah, the Age of Crusade would be tempting for me because you could paint up a small Crusader, or Saracen Force, and that would maybe get me to try it.
Mm-hmm. Bill says, I would like to try Age of Magic. It is good, and it is interesting what they did with it, despite what I said.
Plenty of... let's say all of us have plenty of fantasy miniatures.
Yeah, that's the thing, is you have the miniatures. That's the nice thing. So Brad says Atomic Mass had some news about Star Wars Armada. Hopefully not that it's finally dead. But yeah, we'll see. Gasland uses the same mechanic as X-Wing. I didn't know that.
Yes, they use
I didn't know that either. Huh.
The interesting about Gaslands is that you have to determine what you can do. So you could really have a screw the pooch type die roll, or you could have really good. It's like, okay, type of thing.
Yeah, you played a gob of that. You were like every week we were at the track. Remember that?
Yeah, and then it just went south.
Yeah, it just moved on.
Well, it's all because of one person, but what can you say?
Yeah, that's always Since it's a social game, it's what the group's doing or the buddy's doing or what their time allows and everybody's got slightly different things. Like, you've probably got a handful of games you'd be happy if you could just play those every few weeks, and then there's always somebody kind of pulling sideways on this other thing. Well, it's got to be a give and take because they probably don't love all three of your games. So it's
it's like the goldfish syndrome. It's like, shiny thing. That they look at something totally different and they're off and running and they're gone. And it's like, okay.
I got tempted this last couple of weeks by a Kickstarter, which somehow I let it end today and didn't pledge. I was pretty proud of myself.
Which one was that?
By Fire and Sword, 2nd edition.
Sounds familiar.
It's a Polish company that does the game. The 1st edition's been out maybe like 12 years now or something. It's 15 millimeter and it's mid 17th century Eastern Europe. And so it's got the Ottomans, the Polish, the Holy Roman Empire. Just all kinds of different factions, and it looks really, really good. And they basically kind of redesigned the game. It's a complete rework. It's not just an update. Same principles and everything, but of course they always have a starter box, right? It's got the rules, it's got 2 starter armies, and it was like $100. It seemed pretty decent, but I'm like I've got my Civil War to do. I've got too many projects, so I'm like, and I almost when it got down to like 4 hours, I'm like, just do it, and support it. It was very successful, so it wasn't like it needed somebody to push it over. But and you can always buy it afterwards. But kind of was the shiny thing. I was tempted.
Well, I gotta check and see what might be a week left on the BattleTech Kickstarter.
Oh, what's it up to now? Good Lord, it's still going? I thought it should have been done by now.
Oh, I think it's getting close to 6 million. It just keeps growing.
Almost feel like my life's gonna end if I don't pledge. Like, is this like the last drops of water on the planet we're buying? I mean, this must be critical. I have this.
Well, it's like I really don't need to pledge or help it out, but it is what it is.
So are there exclusives? Is it way cheaper? What really gets people to go? Because once it's funded, then it's like, well, I could get it later, right? Or not?
Yeah. It's like you can get everything you want, the box set. But the thing is that at the level I'm pledging, Mel pledged the same level. Is that all right? You get a set number of things for that pledge, and then as the backing goes higher and higher and higher, they start adding goodies to it.
The stretch goals.
Yeah, all the stretch goals are hit.
Okay.
And
that's what's getting people to go. Okay.
I think I'm getting like 4 to 6 new boxes that for the same price
just thrown in. Yeah, right. Yeah.
So the more boxes they add, the
I was
decrease.
gonna say that they must have stretch goals or something, or exclusives. Otherwise, people would be like, "Yeah, that's cool, but it's funded. I'll wait till it comes out, unless it's half price or yeah, stretch goals makes it cheap." Cool, good for them.
Yeah.
We have a couple of more comments here. I was eyeballing the with Fire and Sword Kickstarter too. I went with Troops of Napoleonic Wars, Cavalry of the Austrian Empire.
Oh, cool.
Oh, okay.
And so that's part of that. That is
no, that must be a different
one?
because it's not Napoleonic.
Oh yeah, okay, that's right.
So he must. I'm not familiar with what he's talking. He went with.
Mel says Gaslands died for me when scenarios started to be designed for one player in mind, the designer.
What's he mean by that?
I'm not sure. Rusty, do you know? Because you play. Did you guys play together?
Yeah, we always played together, and I think I know who he's talking about, but
not you.
Will remain nameless.
Yeah.
Okay. I think I understand what
Rusty's face just turned white. No. The blood
okay. He's not talking about the game designer.
Yeah. Well, there's a scenario. It's like you design this. We would go to one house to the next house, and we'd set up the racetrack because it was up to the person that was hosting would set the racetrack.
I see what you're saying. Okay, home track advantage.
Well, it wasn't necessarily a home track advantage per se for some of us. Others would set it up to benefit other players. Mel and I, we had a team together. We always teamed up against the others and tried our best to help ourselves out. It was kind of like an unwritten goal of, as I'm not going to shoot at you if you don't shoot at me type.
Yeah, you gotta have a safe space.
Yeah.
6 days left in the BattleTech Kickstarter.
Okay. Yeah, it's like they released some stretch goals up to 6.5 million, which are kind of cool. But some of the stuff that they added to the Kickstarter is like, okay, I get another map. Okay.
Yeah. Well, we probably run out of stuff they can afford to do, or that they want to do, or can come up with, or.
Yeah, just give me some more. I'd be happy with salvage boxes. Just give me some mechs.
Yeah, okay.
It's like I don't like playing with hex maps or anything like that. So that's
is it all come in one shipment, or is it going to have different waves? So you have this refrigerator box get delivered to your door.
Yeah, it's like the last time I made the mistake. They did it in 2 waves the last time.
Yeah,
and I said just ship it all together in one wave. Give me it all at once.
Save
I wasn't
the money,
thinking.
Yeah.
And I ended up getting this massive box. And I was like, UPS guy shows up. And he's like, I was like, can you even carry that thing? And I carry it. It's like, it took up a large chunk of my table down here.
Oh, wow.
And it was like just boxes upon boxes, all kinds of goodies and stuff. And it's like, I still got some of like unopened, never touched. It's like,
wow.
You get all these stuff that come with it, and you're like, well, am I ever going to use this stuff? It's like, hey, you get all this cool stuff, and you're like,
oh, okay.
Here's another thing. I just tossed it in my drawer and said, heck with it.
Like, what are you going to use it for?
Yeah. Yeah, it's like there is some patches, dice. The dice are in a different spot. You get faction dice. That was one thing you could get. And I think they just said they're going to have faction dice now where if you have, let's say, Clan Wolverine, which is the clan that shall not be named, you say, I want the dice with those guys. So it's kind of just, and you get patches and stuff.
Just stuff. Yeah, stuff.
You get a digital books, you get print books, you get maps sets, and
posters probably, and
lots of posters. I think all my posters are sitting in my ammo can over here.
Okay, Bill clarified. I guess I did hear somebody on their channel. They mentioned that the Cavalry of the Australian Austrian Empire STL Files was on a Kickstarter. Just the cavalry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah, cool.
Yeah, they had a Kickstarter that came out the same time the BattleTech one came out. Was 3D terrain files, where you could, I think it was like $30, and you could basically print out a whole village if you wanted to.
Yeah.
And I tried to do that Kickstarter. It's like, it's only $30. I'll do that one, and it wouldn't accept any of my credit cards. So, like, I guess I'm not supporting that one.
That's weird.
Bill says, so the wolf dragoons are destroyed.
I don't know. I never heard that. Yeah, that's like Brad said, I want minis. I don't need more maps. I got plenty of maps.
Yeah.
Especially, I don't use them.
Yeah. But they're cheap. They can send those out. It's easy.
Yeah, it's just printed paper. It's like,
Yeah.
But there's plenty of people that use maps. They play them. They never freed themselves from the hex. They just, that's the way they play. That's just what they want to do.
Right. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I got several of my brothers that can't play the game without hexes because they've never played miniature games before.
Just BattleTech. Interesting.
Just BattleTech. And they think that BattleTech is supposed to be played with hexes, and I'm like, it's in the. If I played it as a miniature game, you guys played it as a board game. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you don't usually play on the hex map?
No.
Oh, I thought that you did.
When you see all the videos, BattleTech videos we play, that is BattleTech as a miniature
I'm not the big on the BattleTech stuff as much as I like to drink to it. So
every once in a while.
I've only played it on the hexes when I play. But so you still play classic though?
Yeah.
So you have mainly all the same rules.
I use all the rules for BattleTech that you want to use, but it's a miniature game where if this mech here, let's say, is a 4/6 mover, you can move it 6 inches.
Yeah.
You just use inches instead of
instead of the.
Okay.
I didn't realize that. I knew that you played the classic. I just didn't make the connection that you didn't use the hex maps.
Yeah. And it's really nice because then every game you can put out terrain and change the game every single time. Every game is different because I've got over the years, like in the 90s, it got to the point where it's like you're going to play a game of BattleTech and they wanted to use the hex maps. Every game was the same. It's the same maps.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And it just got tiresome.
Sure. Well, gentlemen, I think we're getting close to that time.
I think we're approaching our time limit.
We were successful in both of our topics, had a lot of good comments, a lot of good chat, got some painting done.
Yeah, same.
So it's great.
Yeah, a fun night. So we'll be, 2 weeks?
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Today is the 13th, so 27th.
27th.
All right.
Cool.
Will be episode 12.
Good grief.
Wow.
Once we start getting into like 13 to 15, that's usually when the season kind of ends. So we're getting close in that way. But we started late, if you remember.
Yeah. Yeah.
We started late this year.
Yeah. We missed
fault.
a few episodes. And it's hard to say if we go into June or not. And we haven't done a painting challenge this year either.
True. That's true. That's almost scares me to death to think about it. We were talking this
what?
year.
I've got to be forced to paint something now?
Yeah.
Wow. What?
Commitments. So, all right. Well, that has to happen once at least. That would be good.
Once a season?
Yeah.
Well, if we do it, probably for me, it should be soon because I'm just about finished with these dragon ogres. I don't know how much I'm going to get done before it. So, But in any case, great show, everybody. Thanks for everybody. I see people saying the thank yous in the comments.
Good to see people on.
Yeah, good to see everybody on, and we will see you guys next time.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
See you in a couple weeks.
Good night.